my defeats and my problems and all of the things that I can sink into depression about, I can also look back and I can think of all the blessings I've had. And my blessings actually outweigh all of the negative things that have...
His voice was a paradox. It was as smooth as silk and as raw as a wound. It could speak of transcendent love, an earthly desire, of spiritual ecstasy and carnal pleasure, often in the very same breath. For more than 2 decades, the voice of Marvin Gaye was the soundtrack to the most intimate moments of our lives. He was the Prince of Soul, the crown jewel of the Motown empire. A man of staggering talent and almost supernatural charisma. He gave us the dance floor joy of "I Heard It Through the Grapevine," the political and spiritual plea of "What's Going On?" and the raw, unadulterated sensuality of "Let's Get It On" and "Sexual Healing." He wasn't just a singer. He was a visionary who pushed the boundaries of black music and in doing so changed the sound of America forever. But behind the velvet voice and the bedroom eyes, there was a man in constant agonizing torment. His life was a brutal war fought on 2 fronts. On one side was a lifelong battle with crippling depression and a severe soul-destroying addiction to cocaine. On the other was a battle that had begun in his childhood, a war with his own father. Marvin Gaye Sr. was a preacher in a strict fundamentalist sect and a violent, abusive tyrant who took his frustrations out on his children with a belt and a fist. He was also secretly a cross-dresser, a fact that filled him with self-loathing that he projected as rage onto his sensitive, brilliant son. This generational trauma, this toxic mix of religion, violence, and shame, was the original sin of the Gaye family, a poison that would seep into every aspect of Marvin's life. And on April 1st, 1984, the day before his 45th birthday, that lifelong war reached its horrific conclusion. In the Los Angeles home they shared during a heated argument, the preacher took a pistol his son had given him for protection, walked up to the Prince of Soul, and shot him to death. He was the voice of a generation, a global icon of love and pain. But his life ended in a way no one could have ever imagined, murdered by his own father. Left behind in the wreckage of that unimaginable tragedy were his 3 children, who would spend the rest of their lives grappling with one of the most traumatic and violent legacies in the history of modern music. In this video, we will tell the complete heartbreaking and resilient stories of Marvin III, Nona, and Frankie, the 3 children of the legendary and deeply troubled Marvin Gaye. Born into a world of artistic genius, immense fame, crippling addiction, and shocking domestic violence, their lives were forever shaped by the complex man who was their father and the horrific manner of his death. We will explore the complicated life of Marvin Gaye III, the adopted son who carried his father's hallowed name, while dealing with his own hidden parentage and a lifetime of personal struggles. We will delve into the incredible journey of Nona Gaye, the stunningly talented daughter who inherited her father's soulful voice and captivating presence, following him into the worlds of music and film, while battling the very same demons of addiction. And we will uncover the quiet, private life of Frankie Bubby Gaye, the youngest son who witnessed the family's darkest moments firsthand and chose a life far away from the spotlight that both created and destroyed his father. To bring you this powerful and definitive family saga, we have gone deep into the archives of Motown, read the candid and often brutal memoirs of his wife Jan Gaye, and analyzed the court records and interviews that piece together the story of the Gaye family's profound generational trauma and their long, difficult, and courageous search for healing. Number 3. Marvin Gaye III, the burden of the name. He was given the name of a soul music king, an heir to the Motown dynasty, a prince by adoption. But his life began with a family secret, and his journey would be a quiet, often difficult struggle to live up to a name that was both a blessing and an impossible, crushing burden. This is the complex story of Marvin Gaye III. Born in 1965, Marvin Gaye III's story begins with the kind of layered complexities that would define his family. He was adopted by Marvin Gaye and his first wife, the powerful and much older Anna Gordy, the sister of Motown founder Berry Gordy. For years, the public, and for a time Marvin III himself, believed he was their biological son. However, it was later revealed that he was the biological son of Anna's niece Denise Gordy, who was just a teenager at the time of his birth, and Marvin Gaye himself. This means he was adopted by his biological father and his great-aunt. This tangled web of family secrets created a complicated foundation for his identity from the very start. He grew up as the prince of the Motown empire, surrounded by the greatest artists of the era. His childhood was one of immense privilege, but also one of deep emotional turmoil. He witnessed the slow, painful, and very public unraveling of his parents' marriage, a union torn apart by his father's affairs, his escalating drug use, and the 16-year age gap between them. The divorce was so bitter that it resulted in one of Marvin Gaye's most critically acclaimed and financially disastrous albums, the deeply personal and vengeful Here, My Dear, which he was forced to make to cover his alimony payments. As a young man, Marvin III tried to follow in his father's monumental footsteps. He joined a couple of R&B groups, but none of them achieved significant success. The pressure of being the namesake of one of the greatest singers of all time was immense, and carving out his own distinct musical identity proved to be an impossible task. He was forever in the shadow of his father's genius. In the years following his father's tragic death, Marvin III became involved in managing certain aspects of the estate, often working alongside the family, to protect the legacy and the value of his father's name and music. However, his life has also been marked by his own significant and very public personal struggles. He has battled kidney disease for years, a fight that has required extensive medical treatment and a kidney transplant. More recently, and more troublingly, he has faced his own legal issues, including a domestic violence charge in 2023. A sad and unfortunate echo of the domestic turmoil that so defined his own childhood and his father's relationships. His story is a quiet and often difficult one. It is the story of a man given a legendary name and a complicated secret start in life, who has spent his years navigating the immense expectations and the long, dark, and often painful shadows cast by his famous father. While Marvin III struggled to find his footing under the weight of his father's name, Marvin Gaye's next child, a daughter born from his passionate and turbulent affair with a young model, would inherit his artistic fire, his smoldering good looks, and would captivate the world with her own unique and powerful talent. Number 2. Nona Gaye, the Phoenix of Soul. She inherited her father's soulful voice, his smoldering, captivating good looks, and his star-making presence. She was born in the middle of a creative and chaotic storm. But for Nona Gaye, stepping into the spotlight meant battling her father's immense shadow, her own personal demons, and the traumatic, vivid memories of a childhood spent with a genius teetering on the edge of self-destruction. Born in 1974, Nona Marvisa Gaye was the daughter of Marvin Gaye and his teenage girlfriend, who would later become his second wife, Janice Hunter. Her childhood was a chaotic whirlwind of creativity, intense love, and equally intense drug use and domestic turmoil. A life chronicled in harrowing detail in her mother's brutally honest memoir, After the Dance, My Life with Marvin Gaye. She grew up witnessing her father's genius firsthand, watching him create masterpieces in the studio. But she also witnessed his terrifying descent into a deep paranoid cocaine addiction that fueled his violent outbursts and made their home life a constant source of fear and instability. She was just a young girl, not yet 10 years old, when she was in the house on that fateful day in 1984 when her father was murdered by her grandfather. The trauma was unimaginable and would shape the rest of her life. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, Nona was driven to perform. In 1992, at the age of 18, she released her debut album, Love for the Future. It was a collection of smooth, soulful R&B and her voice was a beautiful, powerful instrument that carried the undeniable echoes of her father's. She even had a hit song, "I'm Overjoyed." During this time, she also had a high-profile and reportedly tumultuous relationship with the musical genius Prince, who was a great admirer of her father and served as a mentor figure to her. But the pressure of being Marvin Gaye's daughter in the music industry was immense. She struggled with her own battles with drug addiction, a journey she has been very public about, linking it directly to the trauma of her childhood and the pain of her father's death. It was in acting that Nona found her own distinct success. She delivered a powerful and haunting performance as Beloved in the 1998 film, based on Toni Morrison's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, starring opposite Oprah Winfrey. But her biggest break came in the early 2000s when she was cast in the high-profile role of Z in the two blockbuster sequels to The Matrix Reloaded, and The Matrix Revolutions. In a sad twist of fate, she was cast to replace the beloved singer Aaliyah, who had tragically died in a plane crash. She went on to co-star as Muhammad Ali's wife Belinda in the Michael Mann biopic, Ali opposite Will Smith, and lent her voice to the animated holiday classic The Polar Express. She proved she was a captivating and talented actress in her own right, a star with her own light. Today, Nona Gaye lives a much more private life, largely away from the entertainment industry, focusing on her health and well-being. Her journey has been one of immense talent and immense struggle, a story of a daughter who bravely stepped into the spotlight, battled the same demons that haunted her father, and ultimately found her own path to survival and peace. While Nona's journey took her into the heart of the Hollywood spotlight, her younger brother, who was just a boy when his father died, would choose a completely different and much quieter path, a life of profound and total privacy. Number 1. Frankie "Bubby" Gaye, the silent survivor. He was the youngest, a little boy who lost his father in the most violent and unimaginable way possible, at the hands of his own grandfather. How did Frankie "Bubby" Gaye find a way to live a normal life after an abnormal and deeply, profoundly traumatic childhood? Born in 1975, Frankie Gaye, affectionately known as Bubby, was the youngest of the 3 children and the second child of Marvin and Jan Gaye. He spent his early years in the same chaotic, drug-fueled, and often violent environment as his sister Nona. He was just 8 years old when his father was murdered. He too was in the house on that fateful day. He witnessed the aftermath of an event so horrific that it would be difficult for any adult, let alone a small child, to comprehend. His father was gone, and his grandfather was the killer. It is a trauma of almost Shakespearean proportions. In the years following his father's death, as his sister Nona pursued a public career, and his half-brother Marvin III navigated his own public struggles, Frankie made a different and very deliberate choice. He chose silence. He chose privacy. Perhaps seeing the immense and often destructive toll that fame and public life had taken on his entire family, Frankie has lived his entire adult life almost completely out of the spotlight. He has not pursued a career in music or film. He has not given interviews about his father or his childhood. He has not written a memoir. He has chosen to heal in private. His story is one of a deliberate and profound retreat from the public eye. It is the story of a man who, after being born into one of the most famous and tragic families in music history, decided that the greatest tribute he could pay to his own survival was to live a normal, quiet life away from the ghosts of the past. He occasionally makes rare public appearances with his siblings at family events, honoring their father, a quiet, supportive presence in the background. But his life is his own. His retreat from the spotlight is not an act of forgetting, but perhaps an act of profound self-preservation, a testament to his strength and his desire to break the cycle of public tragedy that had so defined and so damaged his family's name. Together, the lives of the 3 Gaye children are a profound testament to survival in the face of almost unimaginable generational trauma. An heir carrying a heavy name, an artist who found her own spotlight, and a quiet survivor who chose peace. Each in their own way has had to find a way to live with the beautiful and the terrible legacy of Marvin Gaye. This theme of the children of a trailblazing musical icon, a true giant of the 20th century, is something we have explored before on this channel. In a previous video, we dove into the life and music of Paul McCartney, a genius of a very different kind, a man who with the Beatles brought joy and melody to the world. We explored his incredible journey from a working-class kid in Liverpool to becoming a global treasure. You can watch that definitive story by clicking the link right here. And his children had to find their own way in the shadow of a beloved global icon, a very different kind of legacy. We are currently developing a deep dive, Paul McCartney's 5 Children, the Untold Story. To explore that incredible musical dynasty, be sure to subscribe and have hit that notification bell.